create an even greater opportunity for citizens and residents alike to be a greater part of the process and to further meet with committee members on a one-on-one basis and to update them on their views as to standards of governance, transparency and accountability, human rights, regulations in the offshore territory, regulation of financial services in the overseas territories, the roles of governors and other office holders appointed by HMG. This is an opportunity for you now for your complaints to actually be heard in a forum where it could make a difference. So we encourage you to make yourselves available and to become a part of the process.
Well, Honorable Leader, many of our citizens here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and indeed those across North America who has listened into the questioning of the premier on last week Monday in London that was broadcast via the internet. Why was the premier being questioned at the stage of this process of the FAC? As the leader of the opposition, can you enlighten us as to where, at what stage is the FAC is in their inquiry?
Yeah. What has happened is the FSC has actually, they've actually had their launches inquiry a few months ago.
Okay.
And they've had a number of persons that have been making submissions, and the premier of the Turks and Caicos as well as the leader of government business for all overseas territories, whether you call them premiers, chief ministers, leaders of government business, whatever the title they have, they all were summoned and to the UK and were party to questioning. You would find that our premier's questioning was a bit more intense than the questioning of the leaders of other overseas territories. There were more submissions made from the Turks and Caicos Islands than any other overseas territory, and a large portion of those submissions centered around issues that appear to suggest a high level of government corruption. And as a committee, part of their mandate will be to review and to be able to validate or verify some of those claims. Now they will also their review will also take them around the world, where they'll visit a number of territories. They'll speak with a number of other people, and they'll report back to the House of Commons in the United States. So their report goes before the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and all elected officials in the United Kingdom. So it's it's a matter of ensuring that if you want to be a part of a process, this is your opportunity. Don't sit on your couch and say, well, I coulda, shoulda, woulda, or that someone else coulda, shoulda, or woulda. This is your opportunity to be a part of that process.
Well, Mr. Leader, as you mentioned during that questioning, that the matter of corruption came up during that questioning. Mr. Leader, the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands and the British government sat back, and the premier said that his government is transparent. Everything his government has done is in the sunshine. Mr. Leader, I can recall that you have presented a few months ago an anti-corruption bill, and I think the premier was questioned as to why in the Turks and Caicos Islands there is not an anti-corruption bill in place as yet, and he suggested and he stated to the committee that in some next year, they might have a bill passed then. Yeah. My question to you is, Honorable Leader, can you explain to our viewers, and especially Turks Islanders that are outside of this country and don't understand the true picture as to what is going on in their little country. Can you explain what happened when you presented as the leader of the opposition your anti-corruption bill to the House?
Yeah, let me explain. I mean, the reality is that this government came to power in 2003, promising that within 3 months of being in office, they would implement strong anti-corruption legislation. They made allegations of corruption on behalf of ministers of the previous government, and they came to power, and they came to power promising to stamp out all corruption. But rather than stamping it out, they've gone as far as to become quite possibly, 3 years after this government came to power through a by-election that took place on February 2nd, 2003. On February 8th, 2006, 3 years, 1 day after, 3 years and 1 day after, said enough was enough. And on February 8th, 2006, we held a press conference from our headquarters in downtown Providence.
And this is the official opposition party?
Yeah. Announcing that at the next sitting of the House of Assembly, following the 8th of September, 8th of October, the 8th of August, 2006, that I would be presenting an anti-corruption bill as a private member's motion. The bill is modeled after the Trinidadian Integrity in Public Office legislation, the same legislation that the Trinidadians convicted Bastio Pandey on for his failure to disclose all of his activities. And we thought that it was important for us to bring strong legislation. The Trinidadian model was one of the strongest pieces of anti-corruption legislation that we had in our region. We modeled ours after that, and we made some adjustments. In September of 2006, at a House meeting, and let me just first give the background and understand, so people can understand the process. What happens in the House of Assembly when a bill comes before it, it is laid on the table and it is read for the first time. At that time, it then becomes public and it's circulated, and the entire public has an opportunity to comment on it and give their views to their representatives. At the next meeting thereafter, that ought to be at least 7 days later, it is read for a second time.
Correct.
At the second reading, there's debate on the bill, and at that meeting, it also goes through the committee stage where the details of the bill are then examined, and where you're able to make amendments to specific paragraphs and specific articles of that bill.
Right.
After that is done, after the committee approves it, it is then read a third time. What happened is, at the very first reading, before, not during the debate stage, but the first reading, before it was published and went out to the public at large, the governing party, the PNP governing party, every single member of the governing party voted against the bill even being read for a first time.